Hello everyone and welcome to the ninth part of our topic on Strand 4.2. Now in this topic we are going to study some very interesting organic compounds which are widespread in nature, such as carboxylic acids. Now if you have ever tasted vinegar or have experienced ant bites, what do you think is common in all? Well, the answer lies in the chemical composition of these substances. Both of them owe their properties due to the effect of carboxylic acids. Vinegar contains ethanoic acid, while ants, when they bite, they inject methanoic acid in the bloodstream, which causes the itchiness. On the other hand, when we look at all the fruits that are out there in nature, they all contain carboxylic acid. Like citrus fruits, they contain citric acid. Apples contain malic acid and so forth. Moreover, the smell of ruminant animals as well as sweat is due to the property of butanoic acid. That is why it is very clearly distinguished. Sour milk also contains carboxylic acid in the form of lactic acid. So let's explore the different properties of these carboxylic acids and their general chemistry. Carboxylic acids contain the carboxyl group, such as this, and their general formula is RCOOH. The two important functional groups that are found in a carboxylic acid they are carbonyl group, which is a C double bond O group, and the hydroxyl group, which is a COH group. These groups are the ones which are responsible in taking part in the chemical reaction, which is why they are known as a functional group. So whenever this carboxylic acid particular group, that is going to change. Now let's see how we are going to name the carboxylic acids. The following are the set of steps we have to follow when we are naming a carboxylic acid. First thing, we must count the longest chain of carbon atom, and this time the longest chain of carbon atom must contain the functional group COOH group. Now this carbon in the COH group should be given the lowest number, which is carbon number 1. Now if you have any particular group associated with the parent chain, that group becomes a branch. And normally when we write the name of the organic compound, we will write the name of the branches in an alphabetical order. Finally, the name of a carboxylic acid will end with anoic acid, and then we'll have to use the prefixes. Like with one carbon, it's meth, so methanoic acid. 2 carbon, it will be eth, so ethanoic acid. 3 will be propanoic acid. 4 will be butanoic acid, and so forth. So let's look at an example now. You have one carbon atom, carboxylic acid, which is written as HCOH. One carbon atom is methanoic acid, formerly known as formic acid. So when we draw the structure, we have a carbon, double bond O, single bond hydrogen, and single bond OH group. This is how the structure of a carboxylic acid should look like. Next example, 2 carbon atoms, so ethanoic acid, or commonly known as acetic acid. So when we are drawing the structure of this, we will have the carbon atoms drawn first, followed by the functional group. Always have this order. Draw your carbon atoms first, then you draw your functional group. So after you've drawn your functional group, the rest of the bond in the carbon will be occupied by the hydrogen atoms. Okay, so that's your ethanoic acid. Then we have a branched carboxylic acid, where you can see that there are 2 functional groups. The functional group is the OH group, which is the hydroxyl group coming from the alcohol, and the second one is the COH group, which is a carbonyl group. Okay, so which of these 2 groups is going to decide the name of this organic compound? That is where we are going to go back to our lesson notes, where we learn the order of precedence of organic molecules. So the one which is bigger and more polar is the one that's going to dominate the naming. And in this case, it is a COOH group which is more polar. So the entire compound falls under carboxylic acid. The OH will then become the branch. So when we are drawing, we will draw the first carbon that is here, bonded to the hydrogen, then it is bonded to the OH. On the left hand side it is bonded to the CH3, and then on the right hand side we have a carbon, double bond O and single bond OH. So when we see that the parent chain must have the COOH group. So our parent chain, let's circle them up. This is what it is. 3 carbon atoms, propanoic acid, OH is a branch, so it is hydroxyl. Position of the OH, so that's carbon number 1, this is carbon number 2, and that's carbon 3. OH is on carbon 2, so the name is 2-hydroxyl propanoic acid, commonly known as lactic acid, that is found in sour milk. Now, just an application of these carboxylic acids, apart from the ones that I gave in the introduction. When we are looking at butanoic acid, which is a 4-carbon acid, it is having a smell which is similar to sweat, which is the reason why a dog can be trained to track people by recognizing the characteristic odor of butanoic acid in the sweat. So that is a very interesting application of chemistry in nature. The prefixes are the same as that we use for alkane, alkene and alkyne. Like for 1 carbon atom in the carboxylic acid, the prefix is meth. 2, it's eth. 3 is prop. 4, but. 5 is pent, while 6 is hex. The suffix, on the other hand, is going to end with anoic acid. So 1 carbon carboxylic acid will become methanoic acid, formerly known as formic acid. Ethanoic acid, also known as acetic acid, propanoic acid, butanoic acid, pentanoic and hexanoic acid. So these are some of the tips you have to keep in mind when you are naming carboxylic acids in organic compounds. Some of the properties of carboxylic acid that we are going to be looking at in this session are: they are weak acids which can react the same way as any mineral acids. Mineral acids such as hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid, or even nitric acids, they all are going to donate a H+, 2 major types of ions. It contains a H+ and an anion. So if we look at the general formula for carboxylic acid, this is how it is going to be. It is this hydrogen that is going to be donated whenever a carboxylic acid takes part in a reaction. So it is going to be having a H+, right, which is going to be donated, and there will be a negative ion present with in the carboxylic acid. That's going to be left behind whenever the H+ is going to be donated. And this negative ion is known as a carboxylate ion. Their solubility depends on the number of carbon atoms. So the smaller number of carbon atoms they are, the more soluble they are in water. As the number of carbon atoms in the chain increases, the solubility of the carboxylic acids also decrease. Now, being weak acid simply means that they are going to partially dissociate in water to release H+ and a carboxylate ion in the aqueous solution. They have high melting and boiling point in comparison to the same number of carbon atoms in the alcohol, alkane, alkene, and the alkyne series. Moreover, carboxylic acids contain a very distinctive odor associated with them, such as ethanoic acid. It is very much prevalent in vinegar, main ingredient therefore that is. So the smell of vinegar is very strongly associated with the smell of ethanoic acid. Similarly, sweat has a very distinctive odor, which is due to the presence of butanoic acid. Now let's look at some of the reactions of carboxylic acids. Earlier on, we have said that carboxylic acids are proton donors. So whenever a carboxylic acid takes part in a reaction, it is going to donate a proton, which is a H plus coming from the functional group. The first reaction of a carboxylic acid is its reaction with water. Now, such reaction of acids with water is also known as a dissociation or ionization reaction, simply because in water these acids will break down into ions, such as this. So when we are looking at this particular equation, now we donated to the water. Therefore, the H plus that is going to go to the water is going to be forming hydronium ions, while the CH3COO minus that is going to be left behind, that is the negative anion. Acids also react with a base in a neutralization reaction, and in this case there will be a formation of salt and water as a major product. So if we're looking at this example here, acids are the proton donors. So this is a proton coming from the acid, and the base is going to donate a OH minus. So together the H and the OH is going to form water, while we are left with the sodium ion here and a negative ethanoate ion. So the sodium and the ethanoate is going to combine together to give you sodium ethanoate, which is an ionic compound also known as salt. The product is going to be an organic compound called ester. The formation of ester is called esterification. Esters are organic compounds which have sweet, fruity smell, and they are insoluble in water because they are non-polar compounds. Now, the esterification process where alcohol and carboxylic acids combine together happens in an experimental condition known as refluxing. Refluxing is actually an experimental procedure by which volatile liquids are prevented from escaping. So if you look at this picture here, so esterification is going to involve the use of alcohol, carboxylic acid, as well as concentrated sulfuric acid. So these three ingredients are added here in the round bottom flask, heated in a water bath to maintain constant temperature. Formation of ester happens in this round bottom flask together with water. So this ester, since it is volatile, meaning it can vaporize easily, is going to enter the condenser where it will turn into liquid and then drop back into the reaction vessel. So the cycle is going to continue until all the reactants or almost all the reactants are used up. So like I said before, the entire reason why the refluxing is used is simply to prevent the loss of volatile compounds such as loss of ester. The concentrated sulfuric acid that is added in the mixture is used as a dehydrating agent to remove the water from the alcohol and carboxylic acid, as well as a catalyst which allows the process to speed up. Once esterification process is over, then a little bit of sodium carbonate is added into the round bottom flask to ensure that there is no unreacted acid left behind. Any unreacted acid is neutralized by the sodium carbonate. And once the ester is prepared, it can later be separated from the water that is formed by the process of decantation. So how does an ester actually form? The reaction between alcohol and carboxylic acid can be represented as such. Carboxylic acid plus alcohol will give you two products, ester plus water. Note the functional group of the ester. So you have an R group on one side, an R group on the other side. So these R groups are the carbon-hydrogen groups. And in between them, there is a C double bond O and a single bond O. And identify an ester. So one side you have a carbon-hydrogen group, alkyl group, and on the other side you have another carbon-hydrogen alkyl group. We are going to name an ester. Now, briefly, I'm going to be talking about the naming and the drawing part of an ester, and the detail of that we are going to be looking at in the next session. So, whenever an ester is going to be named, remember it is made from alcohol and carboxylic acid. The name of the alcohol is written first, where the alcohol name changes to YL. Like for example, if the alcohol is methanol, then methanol becomes methyl. If it is ethanol, ethanol becomes ethyl, and so forth. After the name of the alcohol is written, then the name of the acid is going to be joined in, where the acid name is going to end with OIT. So if you look at this particular example down here, contains 2 carbon. So this is ethanol. So once the ethanol and the ethanoic acid join together in the presence of concentrated sulfuric acid, the ester that we get is called ethyl ethanoate. Ethyl comes from ethanol, ethanoate comes from carboxylic acid, which is ethanoic acid. So when we are naming the alcohol first. But when we draw, we are going to draw the carboxylic acid part first. More of this, like I said, we are going to be looking at in the next session. So until then, you take care. Bye.